Today I'm going to be showing you a recipe on marinated tomatoes. This is a very simple recipe that only requires tomatoes, either cherry, grape, or variety, balsamic vinegar, olive oil, salt, and pepper. To start off, you're going to want to thoroughly rinse your tomatoes and pick out any that look to have rotten spots on them. After rinsing, set out a batch of tomatoes on your cutting board and start slicing them in half. Either long ways or widthwise, it doesn't really matter, just slice them in half. Once you slice up a batch of tomatoes, set them in your leak-proof container. It's important that it's leak-proof because we're actually going to be marinating inside of it and we don't want to spill all over our counter. Once you're finished slicing and putting your tomatoes into the container, now is an appropriate time to mourn the loss of any tomatoes that you dropped on the floor or any other dirty surface. Now, as the name Winging It with Wes implies, I tend not to use precise measurements with my cooking, so with seasoning this tomato dish, it's a bit of a personal and iterative process. To start, I use a big pinch of kosher salt, several cranks of black pepper, and a strong pour of balsamic vinegar. What do those mean? Well, honestly, they mean different things to different people, so later we're going to taste test this batch and adjust to our liking. Use a spoon to give a thorough mixing. And again, we're going to repeat that same process. Salt, black pepper, balsamic vinegar, and another hefty stir. After giving the tomatoes a thorough stir, it's time to give them a taste test. The flavors are going to meld as we let the dish sit and marinate. In particular, I found that the saltiness decreases a bit with time while it dissolves into the tomatoes, and the acid of the vinegar actually gets a bit stronger. So for now, you want a noticeable taste of salt, not ocean water and not quite a potato chip, but more salty than salad dressing, and a mild splash of acidic vinegar, but not quite biting. Once you get that flavor to your liking, add a healthy drizzle of olive oil. This acts as a counterbalance and adds a bit of richness to the dish, and then stir. After this last spoon stirring, we're going to put the lid on our storage container. This is the time when it's important that the container is leak-proof because we're going to slide and rotate the tomatoes and marinate around in it. After doing this thoroughly, set the container on your counter for 10 to 30 minutes. 10 to 30 minutes later, come back and do the same maneuver, flipping your container around and sliding the tomatoes with it, and then set it down upside down onto your counter for another 10 to 30 minutes. 10 to 30 minutes later, we're going to come back and repeat the same maneuver, shaking the tomatoes around, and then this time setting them right side up on the counter for another 10 to 30 minutes. 10 to 30 minutes later, I give the tomatoes their last stir, and obviously after that, I have to eat some. Because that's it, we're done. This recipe is ridiculously delicious. Sweet, sour, salty, and rich. It's a great side dish to counterbalance heavier items like fried foods or roasted vegetables, and it tastes beyond amazing on a hot summer day. This dish keeps in the fridge for 2 to 3 days, and in fact, it actually tastes even better. The flavors continue to meld and mingle, and I usually find that by the time I come back and start working on these leftovers the next day, I finish the whole thing off. That is, if my partner hasn't found them and eaten them all before me. In fact, I'm going to take the container right now to chow down on most of these and finish them tonight. Thank you for watching my first recipe video. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment below describing your experience with this recipe or what you want to see next.